cannot understand this.
It says you're on again.
It says I'm on now.
I just got a notice. Andrew's live. Can anybody else hear us? Let's see. Hi, Selena. Celine.
Yeah, guys, just let us know.
There's no. Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Oh, good stuff.
I hear you. Awesome.
Right,
Sorry.
really sorry about that, guys. It's simply right. I'm not going to explain my ridiculously unprofessional error. It's irrelevant. Anyway, all we need to know is we're back up, and we should be fine. So,
Well,
I had to stop you mid-flow, sir. And the point we'll get right cracking again is that we were going to talk about Lorne's real victims. So, I think the discussion we had is that one of the reasons Lorne has this issue with kind of with taking responsibility is that there isn't a real victim there as far as the decoy goes. So he can't really process that he committed a real crime, can he?
No, I mean, you almost can understand it, I guess, but in this case, he's got to look a little further than the actual crime scene. You know, like I said, I was explaining that his nieces didn't deserve this. You know, God forbid they someday take up with some guy who turns out to be a pornographer, or they meet somebody. I can only imagine. But that's, you know, Lorne deserves everything he's got coming to him. There's no question about that. But these girls, I mean, don't think for a second that they aren't victims here. Lorne did create victims here, and you know, in addition to human victims, we can always talk about Bud too, I guess. You know, that's
and his current dogs as well, which we'll probably get into later.
Yeah.
And we all know about, you know, the kind of don't bring the girls. Yeah, that's always like concerned me. It's one of the aspects you've got to consider. The possibility that on the whole, or there is a possibility that with To Catch a Predator, not everything that show did to bring these people out in the open was good. Of course, mostly you'd probably say yes because it exposed these people, and it probably saved numerous people from being victims, which is all that you can ask. But to expose their families that way, there's a lot of collateral damage. But ultimately, it's them predators themselves which have done that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, in the recent calls with Ramona, you know, when he's, especially during the breakup time, when he's starting to learn that the gig is up, and Ramona is, you know, basically telling him, you know, this whole thing's fake. He's upset that she recorded his mother on the phone, but he doesn't remember that he's the one that dragged his mother into it. He's the one who called her. He's the one who insisted on doing a three-way with her. I mean, it's always been him that's been doing this. So if he wants to talk about victimizing his mother, you know, he should point the finger at himself. So that's all I'm saying about that. But
yeah, and I think it's a way when he starts having a go, because I've heard the one of the Ramona calls where he starts having a go at the community, if you will, for contacting his mother. That's a way of deflecting the attention away from his wrongdoings and making it all the pornographers and saying how bad we are. But he hasn't got a leg to stand on because he tried to make money out of the community, and that kind of gives anybody license if they want to kind of do what they want to him. Really, he doesn't have a leg to stand on in any aspect. Really, it's quite remarkable.
It's the most consensual thing in the world when he goes out and tries to monetize his infamy.
Oh, it's crazy.
He protects himself to it. He deserves everything he gets right now, and only because he. I think part of me thinks that he likes it because it's the only thing going on in his life, but. No, this is him sticking his chin out at the world for us to punch, and we'll do that. We'll be happy to do that. Let's see. The, uh, 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 But everybody's talking about Roscoe. You're absolutely right. You remember the story about what happened to Roscoe?
Roscoe is one of his current dogs. Didn't he have Sadie and Roscoe?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Bud. I meant
Bud.
Bud.
Oh yeah, didn't he? Didn't the dog? Didn't he say something about having the dog got taken and something to do with his money for his truck or something?
Yes. Yes. He made it sound. First of all, he made it sound like he's such a humanitarian. What he did was, again, according to his own words, and again, you got to take limited evidentiary value with anything that comes out of his mouth. But there are nuggets of truth every now and then. But what happened was, I guess he had a friend of his fly down or drive down or whatever, and take his truck. And his friend gave him an ultimatum and said, "Look, you want your truck or do you want Bud?" And of course, Lorne said the story without this part first. Then he went back to try to evoke some kind of an honor out of it. But so Lorne said, "Oh, of course, take the truck. I want Bud." So aside from however that happened, the guy did go to animal rescue in Tennessee. And the interesting thing about animal rescue in Tennessee is they are the best rescue in the United States. Tennessee is the only state that has an animal cruelty registry. And many states have tried to pass, but Tennessee is a big animal rights state. So he talks about how first of all, Bud was only in there for 10 days, how Bud was emaciated and how he wasn't treated well. Of course, he didn't see this for himself, nor I'm sure he didn't get any pictures. But none of that is true. I'm absolutely certain. But the good thing is that Bud eventually made his way to one of his family members, one of his screwed up, pills have eyes kind of family members, with a female dog that had taken off, that had run away from this house, from this trailer, or whatever it was. And I'm sorry, the female dog was at another neighbor's house, but Bud went over there and started spending time over there. And eventually the Armstrongs or whoever was in charge decided to let Bud stay there. And he spent the rest of his days having puppies, actually being with the female dog he was with. I guess, so it's not a sad story about what happened. As a matter of fact, I think it's a rescue story. I can only imagine a dog being trapped in that apartment with the cigarette smoke, the yelling, or actually he wasn't yelling then, he was doing probably weird shit. It couldn't have been a pleasant life for a dog. No dog wants to be cooped up like that all day long. So he did get a much better life out of this deal. But of course,
really, we could look at the dogs and say the victims of Lorne, they were actually probably one of the only few that actually got good out of it. I mean,
yes.
Well, there was a lot of people that got good out of it. Everybody in the States when he got incarcerated, especially a lot of old couples, young girls. But of course, we're trying to find a thread of victims. His dog were victims up until the point that he got incarcerated.
Yeah, it's also interesting to note that neither during any of during the police interrogation, as far as we know, at least what we saw, he never mentioned that he had a dog at home, a housebound dog. He had no concern about that. All he had concern about was himself.
It's a good point.
If he loved his dog so much, you think he would, once he asked, "Am I going to jail tonight?" I wish they said, "Yeah, well, actually, you'll be in jail for the next 5 years." But they didn't. You think he would have said, "Well, what about my dogs? My dog."
Well,
something to that effect.
His dog was I mean, I know it's kind of plainly obvious to say this, but his dog was quite clearly a manipulation tactic for him to pick up women and younger women. If it wasn't, he wouldn't have mentioned it so early in the chat, because it's so interesting that within the first few sentences, he's like, "I'm a good guy. Do you want to see my puppies?" That is the exact sentence that we got taught as children in England that somebody is going to say to you if they're trying to abduct you. It's, "Hiya, I'm a nice person. Would you like to see my puppy?" And that's what Lorne says.
Right, and it's like a puppy at a playground. Exactly. I mean, that's what he used it for. And the funny thing is, if you think about it, he didn't really have much to offer a 13-year-old girl, or any woman for that matter. Girl versus woman for that matter. I mean, we got Basically, he offered her what? A song, some poems, his social security. No, I don't think he gave it to her, but passwords, and um, never-ending terms of endearment, love, everything, and his dog. That's all he had. That's pretty much all he had. So, there wasn't really much beyond that.
Daisy is the other dog. Can you see it in the chat I've got on screen now?
Yeah.
So if you look there, the black one is Bud and the little white one is Daisy. Now, I think he was showing her a photograph at that point because he'd already said he gave Daisy away to his nephew.
Right. He did. And I think maybe it was Daisy he reunited with. I don't know, but Daisy was a smaller dog. She was a little white, almost like a, can't remember the names of those dogs, but almost like a poodle-ish dog. But Bud was a much bigger dog. I think it was a mixed breed. Definitely had lab in him. But I don't know how that worked, but they made it work. So that Daisy could have been the one. And it's funny because also it was kind of a reprieve for Kayla during the chat and also especially during the phone calls, where she would have to divert his attention from his grossness and ask about Bud all the time. And there was one phone call that was really funny where they were trying to decide whether he should pick her up or stay there, and asked about Bud, and then he decided, okay, you're right, I should bring you back here. And then she said, as long as you think Bud's going to be okay. And you know what he said? He said, yeah, I'll be okay. It's like he wasn't even considering the dog. You should go back and hear that. He's done that several times on the Ramona calls too, where you mishear something, and he thinks it's being applied to him, or if it's negative, it's being applied to someone else. He hears what he wants to hear. There's no question about it.
Didn't you mention as well during one of our last conversations that he wanted kind of a mother? It's bizarre.
Yeah, he wanted a mother.
He wanted mothering, didn't he? Which is very common in relationships. Let's not what I don't like to do in these videos, despite various other people, is just to rip Lorne for the sake of it. We've got to be balanced in the way that we look at it. So, many other people have these relationships where they like to be mothered, but obviously not many people have these relationships where they want to be mothered by someone they also look at as a child. It's very disturbing. And there's a lot of issues going down there, isn't there?
Yeah, this is not. That would be a normal situation, the one you describe, where we always try to see. I think subconsciously, we think, okay, that person has our mother's attribute, or is that something that we recognize as being very comfortable, whatever, But in this case, I have no idea. I don't get it. It's like. But he wants, if you look at it, he wanted to have Kayla hold his penis while he peed, while he was sick. He wanted to have her rub his head, I guess, or something.
He even said in the chat, "You're his mommy."
To the dog. To the dog.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, he's trying to create a family.
Yeah.
In that situation, he's trying to. I'm the daddy. You're the mommy. And then he starts to throw ownership around. You own my penis. He's your baby too. Things like that. So that's his contribution to the relationship.
Yeah, and he's trying to entice her, isn't he? He's trying to make her think that she's valued, because he's got enough I wouldn't say he's got intelligence, but there's a little bit of awareness of what he's doing. But of course, any bloke who's in his late 30s unless you're completely stupid, you're gonna be able to manipulate a 13-year-old girl. But of course, it's not a real 13-year-old girl.
That's where he had some cognitive ability. He really did, in terms of manipulation. If you look at the other two chat logs, Kimmy Cocoa Puff and what's the other one, Disney Girl. He discovered a method that worked on Kayla, and that method was to scare them into running to the White Knight.
Yes.
And that was his thing. And he went right to it with those two girls. Listen, don't talk to anybody else on here, but I'm safe. But I wouldn't want to see anything happen to you.
Yeah, here we are. Has anybody else sent you a message besides me from the chat room? Yeah, but I closed them. what they mean by per, blah, blah, blah. It's when, you see, that's the first time that he introduces that word. And it is very clever what he does. It's when they talk about sex, some people think it's perverted. So at this point, he's not even suggesting there's anything wrong with it.
There's no qualifier like an LOL at the end, right?
Yeah.
But what he does use as a qualifier in this sentence is the word they. Not me, they.
Yes.
So he's feeling it out right now. He's seeing what her reaction is going to be. Of course, that very articulate reaction that follows, K, and then he's got to take it further. In other words, that's what they all talk about. You know what I mean now? Yeah.
It's quite good.
He's just, oh my gosh. Okay. But he's, let's put it this way. He's a clever 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it, that. Yeah, you're right. He's not a clever adult, but he's a clever child. And he's never really extended beyond that, has he? It's like this little bit here. He says, "Be right back. I need another drink of water." I don't think he's actually gone anywhere at that point. I think it's him leaving her on the hook.
He does that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, he did that with, as a matter of fact, that's how he lost the second decoy. He took off to grab a pot pie or something. Was gone for like 2 minutes. Came back, and she was gone because, well, they knew that he already went. He swallowed the hook. It's in his stomach with Koala, so they didn't need to do that any further with him. But it's really interesting the way he takes his liberties like that, like he's worth the wait, you know. Because I guarantee nobody in his life would have waited for him. You know, if he says, "Hey, pull," you know, you're in a car with him, pull over. I got to go to the bathroom. Stop at that gas station. He's the kind of guy that you might just let him out and then just pull out of there. You know, he's that kind of guy. You know, so when he's got somebody he can totally manipulate and control, or he thinks he can, he decides to test his boundaries. He's going to see how long, you know, how devoted they are, and whether they'll stay on tender hooks waiting for him. And he'll take his sweet time. But you know, that's I can't explain that, but it's just so obvious to adults. Let's see. What are they saying in the chat? Let's see. I don't want to ignore these guys. Chris has to pay his debts.
Oh, Patrick, Teacup Island. Hello, sir.
Oh,
someone just said in the chat we should do a collab. So if you're up for it one time, drop us a message and maybe you can come in on one of these streams. But yeah, hello, Danimation. It's always a pleasure. Amy, Timothy, Kevin, everybody who is here.
Danimation, is the new content unreleased stuff from the old Sting, or is this a new stuff? The new Sting altogether?
Oh, is this Chris Anson's new stuff?
He says Chris swears he has lots of new content on the way. The way I see it, this is our best chance at continuing TCAP. I agree with that, but I'm just wondering what that content is.
I wonder if there's any way. I doubt it because I don't think it exists anymore. But I wonder if there's any way we can get Chris Anson to get the footage from the car when Lorne was getting filmed inside the car. He might be the only person that could get us that footage. I personally don't think it exists anymore because I think Lorne would have got it in his quote-unquote discovery package, wouldn't he?
It would, yeah, you're right. If the prosecutor was going to use it, though. You know, the prosecutor can still have it, but the defense might not get it.
But he mentions it in his lawsuit, doesn't he?
Yeah, because what they would use it for is in the event that he made any admissions in the back seat. So, you know, he was probably just crying his eyes out. That's my guess. My guess he I didn't mean to do it, you know, things like that. That's probably all you got out of him. So there's no evidentiary value to it. So you're not going to see the prosecutor use it in his case in chief and then require to give it to the defense counsel as reciprocal discovery. So it wouldn't be in his discovery package, but it could exist. And I don't think that they would, they don't shred evidence. They just store them somewhere in some archives. But, yeah, and we're jumping all over the place here.
Well, just like
Okay,
Lorne
let's
himself.
talk about I have a list of other victims. I don't know if anybody's interested in hearing this of other predators. And if anybody's got some other ones, let me know. But this is what I've discovered. Dan Allen. Remember Dan Allen?
Isn't Dan Allen dead, or am I thinking of someone
He's
else?
dead. He's dead now, but he was the I'll shove that camera down your throat guy.
Yeah, he was one of the more aggressive ones. It was very rare that you'd have somebody that overtly made any aggressive comments towards Chris or the crew. In fact, I think he may have been the only one.
Yeah, he left. The victim he left in his wake, as far as we know, is his blind father. I mean, right. What's his father going to do now? This guy's not coming home, and he's never coming home. He died in prison, I guess. Chuck Harding, same thing. He was taking care of his elderly mother. I don't know how much more elderly she could have been to him.
Wow, she must have been in a bad state because he wasn't exactly fighting fit, was he?
Where's she gone? Exactly. How about Gregory Stewart? Remember Gregory Stewart? He's in the New Jersey sting. He was the guy that had the denim jacket and pants and kind of ran after Casey.
Yeah, he was one of my. Was that the pizza guy?
That's the pizza guy. Yes.
Oh, he's one of my favorites. That guy. He's like, you can have the pizza. It's like he's even thicker than Lorne. He thought he could bribe like a sting operation with a pineapple pizza.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was no harm, no foul. As a matter of fact, take the pizza. He had a sick mother, according to his interview.
Yeah, I'm not too sure that
I don't think so either. That sounded like one of those diatribes, you know.
Yeah, because it was the only thing that really could have given him some kind of credit at that point. It's like, I suppose it's better than saying my best friend mum's got cancer.
Yeah. How about? I didn't even mention that. But that is probably the king of them all.
Is that twink toilet?
But that's more of an excuse than a victim. So again, we're talking again. I
think sorry, Shins Koala. I may have to interject because Timothy Carr has asked a question which we were actually discussing on the phone the other night. Which I think we might as well discuss why the question's been asked. Can you see the question?
Timothy Carr, you said?
Yeah.
The cat's in the cradle with the silver spoon. Okay.
Go up a little bit.
I know it's going to be kind of,
Exactly.
You and I got to go at it. Can we shelve the, and I promise you we'll get to that, the is Lorne a virgin subject.
You want to shelf that?
Well, we're talking about it. Might as well go on.
Let's see. Why the question's been asked? It'd be rude not to.
Yes. Okay. I am sure that people are going to have some things to say about this, but there are two camps here, and I know what camp you're in, and you know what camp I'm in. We might as well disclose that right now. You don't believe Lorne's a virgin?
No.
Okay. And I guess I should ask why. Why do you believe that?
Because I think it would be more of an issue for him. It would be something that embarrasses him. I think it'd be easy to pick out. He's not a very sophisticated liar, and I think he's quite transparent. It's quite easy to read. So my theory is, and this is just a theory, if he was a virgin, he wouldn't be quite as comfortable talking about various like sexual experiences that he's had. And also, I do believe, although I've not heard...
Are you talking about in the chat log? Or
in general, like when he's talking to Ramona, I've heard some clips of the new content, not all of it, because I don't have access to it, but some of the new stuff that I've heard in a stream, one of Clobber's once, where he was talking to somebody, and it was quite gross, his sexual talk. It doesn't mean that doesn't mean that he isn't a virgin. I just believe that it will be quite apparent that he'd struggle to talk about it in some ways, and when he gets asked the question about other sexual topics, he'd get quite sensitive about it. That's my theory.
Andrew, forgive me, and don't take offense to this, but I think that's quite thin. As a matter of fact, I heard Reborn is actually in your camp too. And his reasoning seems a little bit more uh, it makes a little bit more sense, maybe.
Yeah.
But you've got to consider Lorne to be a normal person in order for it to apply. But at some point, Lorne was younger. At some point, Lorne was better looking. At some point, Lorne was in a military uniform.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'd love to get access to his military records. I got to see why he was discharged.
I
Anyway.
don't think he looked that bad. Now, being a straight bloke, it's difficult for me to say that another guy's attractive, and I certainly wouldn't say that about Lorne, but I look at him, he didn't look that bad.
I didn't say attractive. I said more attractive. Let's make that clear. I mean, there's a spectrum here. But Reborn's first of all, Reborn talks about that common sense. I mean, obviously, he probably had to have a one night stand. He probably, especially in his uniform, he probably was able to close the deal somewhere, whatever. And then there was a separate phone call, apparently, where Lorne was upset because he thought he had sired a kid with somebody he had sex with. And I don't have the information on that. I don't know what took place in that phone call, but it was, from what I understand, and if Reborn's listening, correct me on this, you're basing that opinion based on how he reacted and how emotional he was. Unfortunately, I don't buy that because he's pretty much like that for everything. But again, I haven't listened to it like you have, so you have that advantage that I don't. But I would love to hear it someday. But I believe I'll take the null proposition here. That is, it's the premise is that he's a virgin until you can show me evidence otherwise. Period. I'm not talking about things that come out of his mouth because, as I said before, pretty much nothing has any value that he intends.
But you can still read into it, though, just because you can tell the truth from someone's lies.
Yeah, and exactly. And if he's saying I was a male whore, I know he's a liar.
But he never goes overboard. The only time I see him lying is when I believe he said in some of the new calls, so I've been told, I've not heard it, that he said to, I don't know the name, I get lost with all this new trolling, I don't know whether the person's called Tiffany or Taylor or Tiffany. What was the other one? Casey. But I believe that he said, and I think he said it before, that he fucked a girl the night before he met Kayla. Now, I think that's total bullshit.
There we go. Exactly. That's what we're talking about. I mean, you can't take his word as gospel at all. You cannot do that. But you talked about how he talks about sex so openly as being evidence that he's not a virgin. I take the exact opposite.
No, can I just interject there? I've probably not worded myself very well. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is, if I think it's more than possible that somebody could go overboard and talk about sex if they're a virgin because they're more obsessed with it. Because if you're a virgin, it's like when you're a kid, sex is like a fantasy world that doesn't quite exist for you. And then when...
Sorry, I'm following your logic here, right?
Yeah. So
he's fitting that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you're a kid and you see these beautiful women and you're in your 12 or you're 13 and you think about this world that you start getting into and it's like a magical world that you can't wait to get in. So it's more than possible that you could fantasize about it and talk about it more. The reason I don't believe he is because I don't detect any massive insecurities with regard to it. It would, in my opinion, it would be blatantly obvious, and I don't detect any of that. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, but I think, I don't read it the same way though.
Right. Well, that's good. It's nice that we have opposing views.
Yeah, of course. You always learn something, right? I don't know. He spoke about sex like an 11 or 12-year-old boy would, talking to his friends. Not talking to a girl.
But he behaves like a 12-year-old boy in all aspects of life, not just sexual.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, his whole attitude, he's stunted emotionally at a certain age. But, I mean, just the way he talks about sex, the specifics of what he's talking about, it doesn't make sense. See, I also have a theory that he has erectile dysfunction, probably for a long time.
I think there's something in that.
I mean, if you look at the way he talked to Kayla in this chat log, all right, and then you go to the Holy Grail when he comes in, you got a different person there. You've got somebody who now is considering that she is evaluating me, and I hope she likes me, kind of person. And I don't think that he has the nerve to do any of those things or try any of those things that he mentions in the chat log, unless she was a blow up doll. That's about it, because you need a partner to at least assist you in this. But and going back to the ED thing, and this is a scenario that I always wondered about. If Kayla was real and he took her back, we talked about what would he provide her to eat? What did he have as a refrigerator? He maxed out his card. He didn't have any money. He had probably bologna in there because that's what he was eating when he talked to her. And that's about it. And the only activity that was planned was bubble bath and sex.
Oh! Don't forget, she was getting to play with Bud for 5 minutes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. But here's the thing. Play that scenario out. Assuming Lorne has ED or has some kind of a weird dysfunction. Is not able to please women, whether he's physically unable to or whether he's a two-pump chump or whatever it is, and he busts his nut. And what does he do at that point? What do you do? He can't go anywhere, can't take her anywhere. But then again, Lorne's stupid. He might do that. Well, he can't afford to, so he can't do that. So they're stuck in that apartment that entire weekend. All right. And Lorne had just had a very frustrating sexual experience. It didn't turn out the way he wanted. What do you think would have happened? I mean, to me, that's a precursor for abuse. I mean, we already know he has a predisposition for abuse. I mean, if this thing hits the very essence of his manhood, he attempts to do something, he's not good at it or is not able to do it, and that's one of the only activities they're planning on doing, and they're going to be stuck there for another 72 hours or whatever it was. She would scream.
I've always said I don't believe Lorne would be violent to Kayla. I don't think he's, and I've often been accused of being a bit, to some small-minded people, a pedo sympathizer, whatever the fuck that means. But I always try and look in the chat log for some good in Lorne, but it doesn't seem to exist. I try to cling to the fact that he wouldn't have, beat on her or anything. But of course, just wanting to sexually be with her is abuse. So where would he draw the line? I understand why you're going down that route, but I'm not.
Well, it's the same thing. It's like a murderer may have never murdered again, but you still, once you murder, you're a murderer. I mean, even if you've never done anything like that in your life, look at the Chris Watts case. I mean, look at these guys. You don't know what happens under a great deal of stress, especially when you have barely any faculties to begin with, and you don't know. That's the whole point. We know Lorne would never get violent with a man. We know that. We know that Lorne is pretty much. I think he's afraid all the time. That's what I think.
Can I say something in his defense with regard to this? I can't believe I've just said that, but what I will say is, I've listened to a lot of the Ramona calls, and I've got no fucking shame in saying that, because they were made available a long time ago, and some of the initial calls for the information we got out of there were fantastic. I can't even deny that. And he was pushed, the stuff with the therapist and all that, he was pushed to the very limits of his psychological coping abilities. And he never once got violent with her. He never once suggested violence, never once said he was going to hit her, never once said he's ever hit a woman. He never, because he's childlike, and I'm not saying that I'm right, this is a theory, and maybe it's me trying to see, being a bit, looking through rose-tinted glasses and not wanting to see the bad in people, but I didn't detect that he has that violent element to him. If he did, do you not think it would have come out in them cases where he was pushed to the very limits?
No. I mean, I think you don't know what somebody's going to do.
No, I agree. It's impossible to say. If Kayla was there,
what I'm going to do is telegraph that, because that's. one of the things that Lorne does is that everything he says, he thinks that that's what women in general want to hear. So there's not going to be anything about violence or even rough sex or anything like that. So he's going to try to be as this weird romantic guy. And then, of course, he's going to have these jealous rages. And he did, by the way, threaten to punch the doctor in the face a couple of times.
Yeah, but what man wouldn't have done in that situation?
What I'm saying is there is violence in his mind.
Yes.
Now, what happens is, what would happen if they were together and he went through an extremely stressful situation outside of what he normally goes through in the chat log? I wouldn't trust any woman to be alone with him. No way.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, but maybe I'm being a bit naive.
Andrew, I understand your point, but I think we have to we can't give him the benefit of the doubt on that.
No, I mean, to suggest that I'm giving this guy the benefit of the doubt is fucking ridiculous in the first place. But
you're just looking for evidence. You're looking for evidence that he hasn't said it before. He hasn't telegraphed his, punches, no pun intended. But, I understand that. But my feeling is, and again, this is my opinion, that these are the kinds of things that he has kept inside. And I have a feeling there's a lot of bad shit that he keeps inside. And again, keep in mind that the only thing he cares about, what comes out of his mouth, is what he thinks women want to hear. I mean, that's pretty much it. So, in a sense, we don't really know him when it comes to that. So, but, there's enough to say that these elements could stack up. What if he attempted to have sex with Koala and Koala laughed at him?
I think Nathaniel mentioned this once, because Nathaniel, when he was doing videos, said that he believed Lorne, like you, had this erectile dysfunction thing, which there is obviously a lot of evidence to, because in all of the videos, in the webcam situations, we don't think he ever got that way.
Damnation just made a fantastic observation.
He often does.
He abuses his animals. He beats his animals.
Does he? I didn't know that there was evidence that he beat them. I know he put them on the treadmill, which is abuse, obviously, but it's not a direct assault.
Well, what he did was, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he beat Roscoe so bad that Sadie got freaked out and ran away.
Right. Do we know that for certain? Because a lot of unnecessary shit gets spread around in this.
That's exactly right. But we're looking for evidence of violence, right? He has no problem, if in fact that's true, he has no problem striking an innocent animal. If
he's done that, then everything I said is completely pointless.
That's fair. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, maybe that was what tipped me over the edge on it.
But I don't know that. I'm not disbelieving anybody that's in the chat, because obviously we're talking about Chinese whispers here. Sometimes things get said about him. He's done this, he's done that, and it turns out to be bullshit. I only deal with facts. I'm not interested in nonsensical speculation that somebody who's got a grudge against. Well, everybody's got a grudge against him.
Hypothetically, if that were true, would that be enough for you to think that there was a potential for violence with him?
If he's beat his dog to death, if he's beat his dog, then you couldn't not agree that there's a potential for violence, because if there's one thing, if a person beats an animal, especially a dog, that's one of the most lovable creatures that there are, if a human being's heart doesn't melt when they see a dog, then they should be eradicated.
Well, if you think about it, he wanted, the relationship that a dog has with him is blind allegiance. A dog will follow you off a cliff if it's a good dog, whatever. That's the position he wanted to have Koala in. Totally under her control, blind allegiance to him. So what makes you think that, or actually, do you think now that could cross over to a human being?
From an animal?
Yeah,
100%, yeah, because what the point I was trying to make is, if he's done that to an animal, what's the difference between an animal and a child? It's somebody who doesn't have the ability to stand up for themselves. It's someone who is easily manipulated. It's somebody who depends upon an adult human for their livelihood. And if you are somebody who is like that, you're going to take your anger out on someone who can't fight back, and who can't fight back, an animal and a child in most cases. So, of course, if he's done that, it's just I'm dealing with information that I know, and I can't prove that ever happened. I know.
It's interesting that you say that because Kelp Pill, I love that name, said that he admits it to a lesser degree on one of the phone calls. I didn't hear that, but I would love to hear that to see what exactly it is. And then, who was it? Let's see. Okay. Siru, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Siru himself says that Lorne just hasn't had the opportunity to physically abuse a woman because he can't keep a woman. I mean,
oh yeah, of course, because but that's that's very true. But that's a little bit like saying, Lorne's not had the opportunity to beat a Jedi Master. We can't say because he's never been with one that he wouldn't. I'm just looking.
Timothy says something that I think supports your position you're trying to work out. He says, I think Lorne is too beta to hit a woman that isn't a bad, excuse me. And then he says that isn't a bad thing. Yeah, that's exactly right. If anything, he would have a problem with whether he can do it, whether he can whether she could hit back, those kinds of things, get hit in the ass with a flip-flop. I don't know what she would do. But
he mentions violence in his lawsuit. If you remember, he says he'd like to go back to the good old days where people settled things with their fists, which is fucking hilarious.
I think it's hilarious. Somebody did a graphic on that with two old timers doing boxing. That was pretty funny.
Was that Crank Cinema?
Yes.
In one of them cringe fest videos, which are just fucking amazing.
I miss Crank. Oh my god. And Conscious Type. Oh my god. Okay. Hold on a sec.
But yeah, it's interesting. The Legacy would be equivalent to watching a 3-lane pile-up. That's a great way of putting it, Raul.
Damnation, I think you're right. I think that if you give Lorne enough triggers like this, if Ramona was in the same room as Lorne, calling him a drunk, bald pedophile, and talking about having the doctor eat her pushy, he would absolutely hit her. I mean, that's kind of I think it's an instinctual thing, whether it's intuitive, whether you feel it or not, because there's no actual evidence of it. But I wouldn't put it past him. He's the most foul individual I know.
It's a strange thing because we've all been in relationships where somebody pushes your buttons. We've all made mistakes in relationships and said things we shouldn't have done. And I remember really being pushed to my limits once. And I'm not just saying this because I'm in a live stream now. But I just remember having to hold back to say something horrible. It was never even a consideration that violence would occur. Now, it's very easy for me to say that because I wasn't subjected to any overt physical abuse when I was younger. Now, I'm not making excuses for anybody, and we're not doing. But if Lorne was beaten by whoever when he was a kid, his brothers or things like that, he's going to be more susceptible to inflicting that kind of physical abuse on somebody else.
Or he's accustomed to seeing it in his household.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
I think Lorne was baby. I think he was always the baby. I think that.
But he was only 3 when his father left, though, wasn't he?
He was 3 when his father left, and he was. This is funny. He was 29 when Dale left. Like, who keeps track of that when they're an adult? I don't get that. If my mother got divorced when I was 29, I wouldn't say, my God, what's going to happen to me? I'm 29. Who am I going to call dad? But yeah, I mean, and there was one story where I guess his father tried to kill her, and somebody came in and whacked him over the head with a frying pan or something. That violence is not necessarily absent in that household. And plus, I know that somebody mentioned that he's duked it up with Roy a few times too. That guy's a piece of work. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go back to the victims on some of the predators. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think we've we could do a stream on the whole virgin thing, couldn't we? A whole hour and a half on it.
I think I'm going to do something and prepare just in case you bring that up again. Yeah, I will. And now that we have the chat log up, that might help too. Another victim, unintended victim, was several victims, was Matty Nash's bandmates. I mean, they had, I think they had a really good, kind of like a Blue Man Group kind of thing, but without the blue. What's it called? Annihilator or something like that. That was his band. It was big. It was getting big in Los Angeles. I don't know if you've ever heard the interview of Matty Nash's bandmates. Their careers were all essentially the band broke up. A very successful act. And so now all those band members are out of work, and their families and everything else are affected. They're victims. Eugene Daly, do you remember him?
Was he the letter carrier?
He was the letter carrier. He was. Yeah.
He's one of my guilty pleasures. Is that a way of that?
I know because I know. In between his Call of Duty, whatever it is, he was on his way to pick up his wife from work, and he got arrested. That poor woman's probably still standing out there in the rain waiting for him. Then you got Resto Cruz and Wonderler, who just gave a huge black eye to the military. Maurice Wolin, Dr. Wolin, may have contaminated his research that he was working on. I don't think that anybody wants to publish a peer-reviewed journal with his name in it.
Yeah, and also, what about all of the people that he's treated in the past? Not just his research, but he must have been not must have been, but surely he was a doctor that had patients at some point.
He didn't treat. He worked for a pharmaceutical company. And what he did was he basically ran clinical trials. He would monitor the patients. Some would be on placebo, would be a double blind. You never know what it is. He wasn't really a practitioner. He was more of a researcher. And he was doing quite well. I mean, working for these huge pharmaceuticals and MD, they make very, very good money. So they don't really necessarily have their own practice. And I guess his particular interest or his particular focus was on cancer research.
And do we know how old his daughters were?
No, we don't. But let's mention them as witnesses for sure. Don't bring them, whatever you do. And not to mention his family. I mean, they were living very, very well. I don't know if they're still together. I think there was some indication that they may still be together, but they can't be living at the same kind of life that they had.
Yeah, and Joey's in the chat. Hi, Joey. His daughters were 9 and 5. So if we look at the 9-year-old one, well, I mean, even she will be getting to an age where she's starting to get more aware about the world and things like that. So not necessarily aware of sexuality, but when she was made it, I don't suppose she'd really understand, but at some point when she gets to 11 or 12 or whatever, she's going to realise what he's done, and that's going to affect her opinion of her father for the rest of her life. Absolutely. In such a negative way.
Not to mention she couldn't be seen with him without being supervised.
I mean, that must be absolutely devastating. I cannot even imagine. And the thing is as well, the people can't grasp that this guy can do one of the most noble things, which is try and find a cure for cancer or cancer research or some kind of treatment. But of course, that doesn't, just because you're doing that, it doesn't mean that you're a totally honourable person, because all of that research can be motivated by money or a recognition. It doesn't mean that you're doing it for the good of mankind, does it?
Right. And he was part of a large project. It wasn't just his research. But the problem is, after this thing happened, whatever he did on that project was contaminated, or at least from a public relations standpoint. I'm not sure if they can go back and redo whatever his aspect of the project was. But Siri mentioned something. I want to Hiroshima said that his father was mentally abusive, but you didn't go out raping children. Or I'm just paraphrasing here. As a result, that's a cop out. You said that wasn't really what we meant. What we were talking about is Lorne's propensity for violence, not his propensity to go out and rape children. We don't think that that's the issue. We don't think that the violence in the home was the issue. A lot of people have gone through that, totally normal, productive lives they're living right now. So that's not what we meant to say.
Just getting back to Woolen as well, Joey said that his wife was a pediatrician, which and then said awkward, which is just wow. I mean, there's just so many jokes that you could make of that, but
he can't go to her. He can't go to her office.
Yeah. So, and Danimation's right. I have a bit of a Woolen pisses me off more than Lorne does, because Lorne, in some respects, I might get jumped on for this, doesn't really know much better because he's a fucking moron. This is a cancer research doctor. He's fully aware what he's doing.
Absolutely.
And even his implications, the implications that we've talked about, if his research has been contaminated, couldn't that be millions and millions of pounds worth of health fund money that's been wasted?
The research money, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they might have to go back to square one. You never know.
And just to keep with him as well, he really went to town to try and get off with that conviction. I mean, really went to town. Joey's going to know more about this than I do, but he really tried to do everything. I know he didn't get away with it, but he tried every tactic in the book to get off with it.
Yeah, in the chat log, he actually tried to break away too, and he ended up coming back. So it seems to me that just based on the evidence of that chat log, and because I don't think he sent it. Does anyone know if Maurice sent naked pictures of himself?
It wasn't in the police interview that we got. I've seen that quite a few times because it kind of interests me, that case. And I think I did a video about it. It's still on my channel. It wasn't mentioned, I don't believe. I think, Joey, do you know anything about that? Whether there was any photographs exchange? Clobbering Time said he doesn't think so.
Well, if that's the case, I don't think they would have got a conviction or possibly even an indictment if he didn't show up at the house. The intent can be really defensible in that case. But once he shows up, he's dead. He's gone.
Yeah, it's why he threw his glasses on the floor. That's one of the most signifying moments from that is when what did he say? No, I wasn't even going to do anything or something like that, wasn't he?
Yeah. Hey, CTP's in. All right, he's here.
Hey, mate. We don't have the Lorniak. We don't have the full police interview. I don't think it's on Joey's channel. I was just looking at the footage from the show.
I know about that interview. I do know that they suppressed the interview after he stated his rights when he decided he was going to stay quiet. And once he did that, he continued to talk after that. And I thought that the police did a good enough job where anything he said to waive his Fifth Amendment rights was enough to get in. But the lawyers were good enough to keep that part out. But the rest came in.
Yeah.
The part where I shouldn't have gone there, I shouldn't have seen her. It wasn't inculpatory anyway. It wasn't really that incriminating for him anyway. But he was able to get that suppressed, and I don't find that to be a major part of wrecking the prosecutor's case. I would say, well, we still have to deal with all this shit. It's similar to Lorne's thing, by the way. Everybody should understand. Lorne is doing what he can, or he did what he could to appeal his convictions, to get himself off of the registry, to do all this stuff, even if he was successful. And again, the odds of that are ridiculous. But even if he was successful, he keeps forgetting that he still has that state case. And that state case, I assume the disposition is to put him on the registry as well. So he would still be on the registry even if he won the federal case, but then the federal probation would then send the file to state probation. at that point in Maine. They would transfer the case from there, and the conditions would apply then. So he's got, just so everybody knows, he's got 2 cases, and he's only been concentrating on one very badly. And even if he was successful in that, he's still got the other case. So he's lifetime monitored. I'm sure he's never going to get out. But I don't know why I brought that up. But
Golden
anyway.
V has asked if anybody's read Taken Abroad. Now, me and you spoke, I don't know whether it was on the last stream, that we were very interested in reading it. Now, I certainly am. I'm a big reader of books. I'm like reading fucking 4 at the same time. I don't mean holding 4 up simultaneously at the same time. I mean, and I'm very intrigued. But do you know what? There's 2 things that stop me from reading his book. One is that I could learn something and read a proper book, and another is that I'd have to give him money. But I am very fucking intrigued to read that book.
We should just have one copy and hand it around. Nick Bagler did a great. Check out his channel. He did all of the all chapters in it. And by the way, it's a very short read. Some chapters are only like a paragraph, which is really weird. But it says a lot about him. I mean, I think that's a great psychological profile, because that is...
Yeah, you're right. We've got to... Lorniak, can I just interject? Lorniak, it's not that I don't want to pay for it. It's that I don't want to give Lorne money, so I wouldn't ask anybody in the community to pay. It's just giving that fucker money that I have a problem with. It just gets at me. It's like, no, you fucker. You know what I mean?
Which is my concern about, as this community gets bigger and whatnot, at some point somebody's going to want to probably draft a screenplay.
What, I've Taken Abroad?
Well, God, no.
It could be like the New Room. Why? Yeah, we could get Tommy Wiseau to direct it.
Fiction is not as good as reality in this case. No way. No, but I'm concerned about him getting any kind of royalties from that. But Son of Sam Law should prevent that. So and probation has a really good noose around his neck on any of his finances. And let's see. Oh, speaking of finances, another thing came up when I was listening to a call the other night. It was not a call, excuse me. It was Lorne's video on why he's not disappointed he got fired from his job. I don't know if you remember that one.
Oh, was that one of his boring videos on his channel?
Yeah, luckily it's not one of his singing videos. I can't stand his singing videos, but this is where he was talking about how he got fired today, and it's a good thing because it's driving truck is killing his wonderful Adonis body and whatever you're saying. But what really happened, and what we know now, especially from all the phone calls, is that I guess that PTO switch in the truck that he was driving was left on, and he caused a massive amount of damage. And of course, he gets fired for that. And that is what we call firing for cause. We had a reason to fire you. It's not a situation where we're not making enough money, we got to lay you off or anything like that. You did something. You cost the company money, essentially, and we got to get rid of you. And when Lorne was really happy about losing his job, the reason why he was happy is because he worked it out with his employer that if he goes quietly, he's not going to contest his unemployment. Okay? The problem is that unemployment is only for firing without cause. You cannot get unemployment if you're fired for cause. We already know he was fired for the PTO switch. He has no right to get public assistance like that, or unemployment like that. The employer makes a contribution to it. Yeah, he can do it. He can make a decision like that. But if Lorne puts on his unemployment application, the reason why he was fired was for any other reason other than I caused damage, that's a felony.
Wow.
So, it's welfare fraud. It's public assistance fraud. It's all kinds of stuff you can throw at it. But when he puts that on an application, because if he put, I got fired because I left the PTO switch on, they would have said, I'm sorry, you can't collect. So as much as he may have worked it out with his employer, because what happens is they take that application, they send it to the employer to say, is this true? Was he not fired for cause? The employer would respond or not respond. Typically, they don't respond. But even if the employer went along with it, Lorne is still lying on his application.
He couldn't lie straight in bed, that guy. Look at Freddie Dunning-Kruger's comment. It's really made me chuckle, that.
What do you think? Where's else today? I got to go to my phone. But, he's committing crimes everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah, I reckon he's drink driving more regularly than we actually believe as well.
That's the thing, probation can't go in with this evidence. I mean, there's no question about it. They would look really bad. The judge would ask, why didn't you stop this thing a long time ago? Things like that. Probation does not want to go in with this evidence. They're waiting for Lorne to get stopped with a broken taillight and he's drunk. That's probably what's going to happen. And hopefully he won't kill anybody. I should start donating sperm. Yes. Tony. Oh, you can scare off his cat. Yeah. My guess, here's the other thing. I think he's legally over the limit every minute of every day. And the reason why I say that, I think he drinks every day. I think he's a morning drinker. I think he's an afternoon drinker. It's just
borderline alcoholic. Maybe not out and out. It's certainly alcohol dependent, but as are a lot of people.
He's definitely an alcoholic.
Oh, do you think?
Oh, yes. He's got no impulse control at all. And it's controlling him. There's no question about it. And he's got all the rationalizations in the world, just like.
Well, I have heard a lot of Ramona calls where he wasn't drunk at all. As I understand it, the definition of an alcoholic, and and it's just a definition, is it's somebody who is permanently drunk.
Well, I believe that's the case. I think that anytime he gets in a car, he's over the limit. That's what I believe. So even if he thinks he's sober, because you got to remember his tolerance is pretty high. He's drinking 18 beers. I don't even know if I could fit that in my body, but 18 beers, okay, and he's still standing, and he's driving to get more.
Conscious type person. No, alcoholics go to meetings. But do you know what's funny about that? And I think we should do a full stream on it at another point. Is when we're talking about meetings, is these fucking sex offender classes that he goes to. And his therapy system and his network system. It's like I don't want to judge any American systems because it's just as shit in England, but it seems that his support network is absolutely fucking useless. That the fact that he came out of it with his therapist and said that it's all because he couldn't say no. Now, of course, we don't know what bullshit he's telling his therapist, but I would suggest that they've been of no use to Lorne whatsoever, have they?
Well, Lorne's the kind of guy that would hang on to anything small, but that sounded good. So they probably said something like, "Oh, you should have said no," when you found out she was 13. You got a problem saying no? And then he made that, that's my issue.
Of course. He's feeding them a tale, but still, for them, I suppose some people can't be helped. I just find it a bit disturbing and he's got all these teams around him, a psychologist, a therapist, sex offender management classes. He's on the register. He's got a probation officer, and he's actually worse than he was before he went in.
And his attitude toward the team is almost like they're working for him. So it's almost like, for instance, when he wanted to go after Nathaniel, he was talking about bringing the full force of the state, the full force of the government after him. And the people who were going to lead the charge were, probation officer, everything. They wouldn't do that. Are you kidding me? First of all, they're not cops. Second of all, I don't think any AUSA is going to listen to the guy. So for some reason, he thinks he has his own enforcement bureau, when in fact he is a ward of the state.
When we're talking about Lorne's alcohol issues, obviously alcohol doesn't make you go online and try and molest a 13-year-old kid. However, what negative effect has it had on his life overall? And if he didn't drink, would he have got into that situation? Because a lot of people are saying in the chat now how negative drink can be. Of course it can. If anybody knows that. So has it been a contributing factor to his downfall?
No, I don't think so. I think he's got a lot more issues besides that.
Oh, of course, but what I'm trying to say is if let's just say alcohol wasn't available to him at all at any point in his life, would he have become a better person? Would he have been able to get a grip of some of his problems? Maybe.
That's assuming that alcohol is the basis of all his problems. I don't think so at all. He uses alcohol to numb his regrets. That's all he does.
But what I mean is, like, I'm not saying one way or the other. I just find it quite interesting because.
Person if he didn't drink.
Well, for instance, when you say it numbs your pain and your ability, you see, I was in a situation when I broke up with an ex a few years ago, and I drunk to avoid pain, and it prolonged my healing time. Now, if you're somebody like Lorne who's got all these issues and you don't want to face them, you'll drink, and that's a way of escaping it. So if he didn't drink, would he have not been forced to deal with this pain and these issues that he's got?
I don't know. I think he would find another self-destructive way.
I think you might be right. I think it's interesting. I mean, there's, it's just another theory that we're talking about, and it's all hypothetical. Would Lorne have beat Koala up? Would he have done this, that, and the other? Obviously, we don't know, but it's fun. It's fun to speculate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what we're looking at is, we have a hypothesis, then we look at the evidence, and then we form a theory. That's how it works. It's not anything that's absolute or certain or anything like that. It's just based on the available evidence. That's it. And everybody has an opinion. Everybody. You say you don't think he's a virgin. I think he is a virgin. Things like that.
I find that very interesting, and it's great that I like the fact that you think that, because there is a part of me that kind of wants him to be. It would if I want him to be a virgin. I don't want him to have ever experienced that.
Yes, well, or for that poor woman or whatever woman. But yeah, obviously there is a part of me that would feel like the world makes sense that he's a virgin. Yes, that would, only because I can't picture the idea that some woman would allow him.
No, I think you're being a bit. Come on. As horrible as it is, there are people out there with just as bad as issues of Lorne that Lorne's got. Of course, it's difficult to imagine because we know so much about him. But there are people, as horrible as it is, even worse than him, even less attractive.
I'm starting to wonder about that. I'm starting to wonder about this guy.
But we know him so well, so it's virtually impossible for us to believe that any woman could find him attractive. But let's not forget, you have people on death row in all kinds of situations that get married, and
they're unattainable. I saw a documentary about those women who do that, and a lot of them are looking for that kind of relationship where it's, there's a barrier between the two. A lot of them have been abused. A lot of them have been abused when they were younger, sexually abused and whatnot, and they feel safer for some reason. I can't understand the aspect of picking that person, but that's
someone's made a great comment. Logan G has said, he said Lorne can't afford a prostitute. If he was a virgin, now obviously he would have had some money at some point to buy one. Would he have not got a prostitute?
Well, he said he actually spoke about that a few times. He said he makes it sound like he's above it all, a prostitute.
But we know he's not.
Well, yeah. Now we got to figure out which lie is true.
Yeah, because.
But a prostitute. Well, here's the thing. You also got to throw in the idea that Lorne has these ridiculous standards for the woman he wants. He wants somebody who's in her 20s and who is pretty and young and whatever. And so he takes it.
Golden V said he would fall in love with the prostitute.
He probably would. He would probably fall in love with a stripper too if he went to a strip club. I believe he's that kind of guy. I mean, he's just so deluded. Lorniak doesn't think he's a virgin either.
Yeah, I think we're 50-50. I think the polls are locked at 50-50 on the Lorne virgin subject.
Clobber, I still have you on my side, right? Here we go.
Yeah, Clobber really believes he isn't. I mean, I think there's evidence for both cases. I'm still in the he isn't, but I wish he was. I hope he is.
How do you confuse a
but we'll never know. This is the good thing. We can theorize about it. We'll never know.
Yeah. I mean, if he lied about having sex before he saw Kayla, why would he lie about having sex any other
But
time?
most blokes have boasted to their friends about sexual exploits that have never occurred, especially in your younger days, I would suggest. I certainly did every now and again when I was going through a bad
Siri,
spell.
Siri said something cool. He would probably find, let's see, ugly fat chick in a bar and drunken, and that's the kind of guy. Maybe he would do that, but I don't think that would fit Lorne's standards, though. See, I think Lorne does a lot of things to impress other people, or try to impress other people. So he would want this eye candy on his arm.
But
Uh,
but this standards thing, I think this standards thing has only come into place since this Church of Cod fame, because it's got him to this illusory point where he actually thinks that he's worth something.
I think it's so hilarious when that phone call with Ember and Mike V playing Natalie, and how they
You mean
were.
when they got him to believe that Nathaniel was a girl, and
Yes.
then he turns and is suddenly friendly towards Natalie?
Well, it's not so much that, but Ember and Natalie were doing a great job about having him believe that, hey, both of us want you. Why don't you take us both? What are you worried about Ramona? And there was no hesitation in his mind that was true. Nothing. He actually believed that Ember and Natalie wanted a three-way with him, and it's really weird. I mean, he believes anything positive, anything positive.
Yeah,
So,
it's quite disturbing. I can't believe I'm having to reinforce this in my own mind, but I literally will believe anything, and that's quite clear that he's repeatedly getting catfished. It's like, when is this motherfucker gonna learn?
I know. Oh, by the way, victim. Going back to victim, Jay Raffner.
Oh yes, didn't he have stepchildren?
He had his wife and daughter on a camping trip when he was arrested.
Oh no.
Home to this, and he's home. Whatever he does, I have no idea.
Oh,
Anthony Palumbo and his brother and his other brother having to live in shame.
meat
Michael,
market.
how about Michael Willis's eye surgeon, who will forever be shamed?
I love that guy. I absolutely love that guy.
And Jim Ross let all those swinger club girls wanting, so they're victims. But
Oh,
the bottom line is, anybody's associated with these people are victims. Any animal. I mean, what happened to Westerbeck's parrot? I don't worry about that little guy. Those guys live for a long time, right?
yeah. I don't want to talk about him because he makes my fucking blood boil, which is bizarre because they all do, but him especially, he just enrages me.
What? Let's see, Clobber. What has no bearing or weight? Let's see. Did I miss it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what.
I think I got to see his earlier comment. Let's see. What's parrot? Brill's uncle, the money spent. Oh yeah, the gym went to nothing.
Westerbeck's parrot went back to its own planet.
Oh, that was Westerbeck. Yes, Clobber. That's right. I'm sorry. Exactly. Um, let's see. But Lorne's like a gravitational force of a black hole. If you get into anywhere near him, he's going to suck you right into it. That's what he did with his niece.
Yeah, Jose Gomez. Just about the Westerbeck video. I'm gonna try and set up some kind of Google Drive or something if anybody's interested, because I've got a shitload of videos that I cannot put on my channel because whoever I know who it was, but that sad fucker who took my channel down is still at it. So whenever a video gets up there, they're still trying, and it gets taken down, and then my streaming privileges get written. So we'll sort something out anyway. It's just a case of when, but yeah, that it pisses you off, YouTube. I don't want to get on my eye arse about this, but you make a video about somebody like Westerbeck and say he's a such a thing, a child molester and that, and then the video gets taken down, and the Rescue Cruise video as well, which was pretty fucking good.
Why would that get? I mean, who'd be
What was the reason? I cannot remember.
bullying?
Yeah, Negan. We've spoke about the. I've spoke about the creep catchers and the vigilante groups before. I think they're great if the motives are honourable. It's as simple as that. Some of them are just using it as an excuse to get fame. Some of them because they've got fuck all else to do. It's a little bit like the TCAP community, really. And some of them are doing it because they genuinely want to do good. And a lot of them are they're just using it as a punching bag. And when they do that, what they are doing then becomes corrupted. Not necessarily corrupted, but it's bad karma, really.
Ill-gotten, yeah. Is it the predators that are doing it?
Sorry?
Is it the predators that are taking you down?
The predators?
Yeah.
Oh no! It's people. It's certain people within this community. So I believe.
Why?
Yeah. So.
That sucks.
Yeah, it doesn't it.
That's like shooting on your own goal.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's not a big deal. I'm not really. At the end of the day, if somebody wants to spend the time doing that, then they've clearly got some kind of issues going on there. But that's it's not a problem. It's all done and dusted now. There's no. I pray for my enemies. I have nothing but love and peace towards the entire world.
Yes, that's a good way to be.
Apart from Lorne. But I still, it's like I said before, if I could click my fingers and cure Lorne of all these problems, I would do it because the world would be a better place, but it's never going to happen.
Kayla, you're right. The victim, let's see, what was it, the Florida
I can't
State?
believe that we've never even mentioned that.
Yeah, the kid, yeah. Yeah, the kid is, what's really horrible about what happened was when the guy got out of jail, the mother chose the guy over the kid, and the kid had to leave the house.
Do you know what was really annoying about that guy that brought the kid to the house? When he was getting locked up, he was throwing the sympathy card on the cops and he was going, "You've got your handcuffs on too tight, please give me my son." And I was like, "You bastard, how fucking dare you do that? How dare you be a parent and put your kid through that and then try and use your kid to get out of it?" I'm like, that just enrages me.
Who thought that was a good idea to bring your kid to that anyway? I don't understand that. I mean, Jimmy, what do you say? Well, let's go take a ride. Where are we going, Dad? I don't know. Watch video games in a room somewhere or like rape a kid? I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. Why? Unless, worst case scenario, he's involving the kid, maybe. I don't know. I hope not. Again, that's an unsubstantiated allegation. But he did bring the kid.
Yeah, it's probably best not to let your mind wander too much with regard to that. But Jose's saying about Chris is Hanson's new channel is coming across a bit desperate. I don't really want to make any judgments because it does come across that way because it's like, what are you doing, man? I believe in Nick Summer Joey's videos off his channel. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, this is almost, well, I don't want to say sad, but he's always gonna have a place in my heart.
Yeah, he's always got this community to leech off if things get too bad.
Well, yeah, maybe we can get him on a stream.
Oh God, can you imagine?
I want to hear something I have not heard before. That's what I really want to hear.
Oh, that you know what? I'm gonna try and
let's get him.
Yeah, well, I believe he would want paying, and I'm not fucking paying him anything.
That's true.
However, we could do like a GoFundMe if people would be up for it.
Yeah, well, you could. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it doesn't have to be us that interviews. It could be anybody.
I don't really care as long as the right questions are asked. I don't really give a shit who speaks to him. He'd just be interested. But the thing is, he probably doesn't even remember Lorne, which is a bit sad.
He doesn't or does?
No, I'm saying that because there's so many, Lorne won't stand out to him like he does with us.
Yeah. One thing I would like to ask Chris is how prepared was he when he talked to Lorne? It seemed like there was a lot worse stuff in that chat log that he could have said. But then again, he's on national TV. But then again, Can I Rape You Anally was too. So I'm not sure how much worse it could have been. But, for instance, it seemed to me that, if you have kind of pages marked at the best parts in the chat log, it'd be ready. And also, I understand that, you don't know who's coming, you got all these dates lined up, for lack of a better term, and you don't know who's going to show up or when or at the same time. So you got to figure out who it is first. Then you got to get the chat log together, and then Chris gets it. But I thought he did a great job, though. I think he did an awesome job.
Wait a minute. See what's being said there? Apparently, Chris knows about Lorne.
How cool would that be? I bet you if you asked Lorne, he would do it.
Nah, really?
Yeah, I think he would. I think that would, in his mind, that would be the answer to defeating his demons.
But Lorne's not interested in facing his demons.
That's true. That is absolutely true. I mean, if I was in his position, I would want to do that. Let's see, he would demand money. Yeah, he would.
Yeah,
like in the old days, right? Exactly.
Boxing match between Chris Hansen and Lorne. Oh, I'd pay $1,000 out of my own money for that.
Somebody said that he's gained 20 pounds, Lorne, and looks at two. I guess he's up to 195 now. He's 175 at his arrest. He's 5'6" or 5'7", not 5'8" like he says. So his BMI is, I think somebody figured that out yesterday. It's something like a 34 or something like that. I don't think he would last a half a round.
No, certainly not.
He would be gassed.
So Chris wants to do an update series including Lorne and Jeff Stacey. That would be...
Did he actually say that?
Well, I'm pretty sure... Did he say that, Donimation?
That would be awesome. Oh my God.
But the thing is, if he's in a situation now where his financial position isn't great, he will be floating all kinds of ideas around now at the minute, saying, I'd like to do this and I'd like to do that. None of it might have that much credibility.
Right. It's totally my bad. He has more stamina than I'll ever realize. You're absolutely right. He has no stamina. He gets winded yelling at his catfishes.
It's a good point, that, because just think about all that energy he's wasted that he could have utilised more effectively. But of course,
see, all of a sudden, basically that's true. But what do we have to lose? Yeah, that would be awesome, Danimation. Oh, and he answers Instagram, you said?
We should see if we could set that up. You know what? Present it to him as a promotion for his upcoming series.
Yeah, because the thing is, probably somebody who's got probably be better if Joey contacts him, because Joey's channel's the more subscribers. If I approached him with 1,000 subs, he'd be like, "Who the fuck's this guy?" Do you know what I mean? But if someone with a bigger channel went, maybe we would have a better chance of getting him.
That sounds like a pretty good idea, but. Also, Heisenberg would be good, too, because he's got that documentary out. Have you ever seen that documentary?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, you've got a point there, yeah, because if he kind of sees the documentary and sees that it was done in kind of a professional way and it was well done, then maybe... Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
And plus, Heisenberg would make a great interview, too.
Maybe I could get Adam to contact him, because his channel's got... Or maybe even... What about Bass Sharman?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Bass wants to come back to this, does he?
I don't want to bring him into it without his. He probably wants to move away from it, but I'll send him a message later and see what he says. But so have we got anything else with regard to?
I was going to talk about why Lorne can't be a country music star legally, but we can take that up at another time.
And to be fair, we've not even covered the victims part fully, because we've not even spoke about all of his siblings. We've not spoke about Betty. We've just we knew this would happen. We've just kind of gone off track, but it's been fun though.
Oh, I was just told CTP said Bass does do TCAP once in a while, and Brandon says he did a Lorne video the other day.
Yeah, he still does mention him every now and again, and in fact, I need to, I'll see what he says, but Sam Pendleton, anybody, I certainly don't think it should be me that approaches him, but well, obviously, but somebody who's in a better position. I think if he's out and about and he's doing these streams and he's aware of us, I can't see why he wouldn't do an interview with someone, because it would be in his interest to do it.
Yeah, you can hop in. What's it going to cost him, really? I mean, hop in and hop off. That's it. Let us have 5 questions. That kind of thing. That's the way I would think he would look at it. If you can use the nominal time very efficiently, say, look, give us 10 minutes. We'll ask these questions. I think he'll be fine. He'll probably go over too if the questions are good enough. So, yeah, and I definitely want to ask him if Lorne's a virgin.
Yeah, you know what I should do? I should put a vote. I'm gonna have to set a vote up on my channel and see what people think, because it'd be really interesting to get the. But I think it'd be like a really good 50-50.
And I think and I think the point is well taken, that I don't think he's doing very well, so he could use some extra publicity here.
Oh yeah, like I said, I can't see any reason why he wouldn't.
Yeah, especially. He takes a look at the community and everything else. They're good, smart people. Everybody's, here for the right reasons, and I think he would. I think he might enjoy it, actually.
Yeah, that'd be good. Right, it's been. We've done well over an hour and a half, and as much as I could carry this on for hours, we're gonna have to wrap it up, my friend, because I've got work in the morning.
Absolutely. All right, buddy.
So, guys in the chat, thank you very much. We've had loads of people in the chat today, and it's been really good. And, well, it's been good because my friend Shin's Koala has been with me. So, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. This is fun.
Really fun. And I'm sure, we've not even really touched upon everything we wanted to talk about. So,
we never do.
Yeah, we've got loads. The thing is, you know what I like about this subject? Even if there was no new content, no new interview with Chris, all the stuff post-contact got eradicated, there'd still be shitloads to talk about forever.
That's what I'm thinking. There's so much more in the chat log I'd like to go into.
Exactly.
And interesting stuff. I mean, the chat log, maybe we could do the phone calls. The phone calls are hilarious.
Oh, I could make a career out of this. If I could make money off this stuff, I'd quit my job, and because things would be a lot better then.
Yes.
Andrew, it was a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys, and we'll speak to you soon. Have a good weekend, my friend.